following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot. It's the most wonderful time of the year because we have Kevin Ryan. This is our annual tradition where we go through the stories that were 1 month by 1 month and see if we missed any along the way. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I am doing good. I had a busy November, a lot of travel, and now I am back, and it is just good. It's good to be around the kid. It's just good to be home. It's good to sleep in your own bed.
No, I love that. I love your own bed. That's the best, sleeping in your own bed, dude.
The way to roll.
November was nuts, man.
Crazy times. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. We begin in January, and there was really only one story that was going to be here. And that, of course, is the inauguration for the second term of Donald John Trump, as well as his flurry of executive orders. He began, I think, illegally preserving the life of TikTok around that same time. It very briefly shut down and then turned back on. Elon Musk sent his heart out to the crowd, which sent many Nazi accusations flying. When we think about the beginning of Trump 2.0 and all of the rechristening of that, what do you think of immediately?
AI.
You think of AI?
Yeah. So this is, for everybody who's listening, the premise is I don't know anything that Justin's going to bring up. So it's cool. It's like a little Rorschach test of the year. And the thing that struck me about that inauguration, and it struck a lot of us, was the tech bros up there, like South Park characters on the dais.
Yeah.
So, and from that moment, that moment felt very significant watching it in real time, but it has since played out into all sorts of things that are eventually connected to AI.
I mean, I hadn't thought of it like that, but certainly everybody that was there, that was a who's who of people that are in the tech world. Even, Mark Zuckerberg, who grew out his broccoli haircut, is now more of a, centrist to right-leaning figure, a more manosphere friendly Mark Zuckerberg, higher T, despite the fact that he does not have one in his name. Lauren Sanchez in a just ridiculous outfit, if I remember correctly, Jeff Bezos's then fiance, now wife. But every single one of them, you are dead right, has spent the intervening time building data centers and looking for power regulation in a very AI-friendly industry. And more than that, they all came kind of hat in hand saying, we would like an administration that defends us internationally, that when the EU comes to levy penalties on us or levy fines on us, we want our home team to go to bat for American industry. Donald Trump seemingly and has acted on all of those things. So far, it seems like a smart bet for them if what they want is investment, especially in these AI data centers.
That's what struck me, just how they really jumped on the same. And I don't blame that. There's no moral attachment to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see them all smirking up there, especially given the damage that they either directly had on Trump in at least 2020.
Yeah.
Less so in 2024 as all those boys raise their testosterone levels. You're spot on there. Started working out and suddenly like, oh, mega.
I mean, let's remember Jeff Bezos is the owner of the Washington Post.
Yes.
Like, and he had his his girl out there with her girls out. Like it is a weird scene.
It was a while. And then the having Barron right next to Elon and that, I mean, that whole meme situation that came out of that was so enjoyably fantastic.
Might be the high point of the optimism of Trump 2.0, because things have only kind of gotten more complicated, as they are wont to do. The beautiful future that everybody imagines in their head is not only much more difficult to actually make real, but also you realize maybe everybody's thoughts weren't exactly on the same page and they all wanted slightly to very different things.
Have you seen Eddington yet?
Oh my God, do I love Eddington.
I knew. I
loved Eddington. Eddington is a movie by Ari Aster that starts in a place that I think a lot of us didn't have the best time during lockdown, during COVID, and then evolves into what you think is going to be a small story, well told by great actors, specifically Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix, where it's going to be an election story with a small town mayor and a small town sheriff, and they are going to battle each other because it's COVID policies. And it just takes specifically two turns. One turn where you're like, okay, I kind of expected this. This is a Hollywood telling. Take a wild guess who the bad guy is in the Hollywood telling of the lockdown. And then it takes another turn that I did not see coming at all and made me love the movie 1,000,000%, because it just took things to a totally unpredictable level. And the final 10 minutes are just a totally different movie than you were expecting.
The final 10 minutes could have been their own little short film.
Yes.
There was another turn there as well. Like sort of the middle part is what most movies would end with.
Yes.
That scene right there. And then he just kept going. And from there, it spiraled in this beautiful way that, I mean, speaking of a cultural and political Rorschach test. I remember talking to my friend who had been championing this movie for a while and just saying, this is what this movie's about. And he said, no, this is what it's about. And everybody I've talked to has taken and it's every time it's political, and it completely reveals what's going on in each of our subconscious minds.
I think the one thing that movie gets so right, and I think is great, it shows you that, like, for as much as we can, make faces at art that makes a political point or makes a cultural point, when it's done well, there's just nothing like it. Is Eddington, there are a few things that are constant that win throughout the entire movie. One of them is influence. How much we influence each other, how much when we say something to each other in person, we can brush it off. But if we see it on a screen, we take it deadly seriously and we change our opinions, or it shapes our opinions based on this abstraction, which is heightened because it's a small town. So everybody's constantly running into each other just by accident, and they're constantly having conversations that just register not at all. But as soon as they see it on a screen, it matters that much more. And the other is, I'll leave for people to watch the movie, but it's the first and last shot in the movie. Spoiler alert. But that's the other constant. But no, I loved it.
Sure.
It just what a cast too. Like just an all killer, no filler cast.
Benicio del Toro. Again, I won't ruin anything, but his very brief appearance is genius.
Wait, Benicio del Toro?
Yes.
Who is Benicio del Toro in that movie?
He was the super duper bad guy who on the Learjet.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. Wow.
For sure, yeah.
The Learjet, when you see the Learjet, you're just like, either you roll your, this is the reason why I think the movie didn't get critically acclaimed like I think it should have, is because some people just wanted it to end before the Learjet. And as soon as the Learjet shows up, they're like, oh no, now you're doing it wrong. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
but
no, it would have been a Hollywood movie up to that point.
And then it became a real Hollywood movie. The way they used to do it, Kevin. The way they used to do it. They shocked you. They surprised you. They'll sell you the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge. Austin Butler is just phenomenal as this like Russell Brand kind of character that just sort of moves his way through. Just great. Just great. Yeah. And Emma Stone. I'm just a huge Emma Stone fan. She's
fantastic.
A muted performance, but an important one. Very good. Okay. February. And this is where I think the crystal cracks a little bit for some people, where if you thought that Donald Trump was not going to do the same things that he was doing in the first administration, we were back. We're back to 2017 when the tariffs go on Canada and Mexico. The stock market freaks out, and we begin. We're going to get to another big tariff thing, but I just want to stay here where I think this was where people were like, oh, it's going to be this. It's not going to be different. It's not going to be, it's just going to be every day there's a thing, and you got to watch social media so you see the thing that filters through everywhere else.
Yeah, I've got a shout out for you for covering the tariffs, because everybody was scrambling. That's what you're mentioning, right? Or you saying?
No. We will get to Liberation Day. This was just Canada and Mexico, where there was the big fight over. This was before the Canadian election, and they were going back and forth with Justin Trudeau before he just became Katy Perry's boyfriend. And it was all that.
Yeah, that was interesting. Because February, I would have still been at the Blaze. So at that point, I wasn't, until I joined Bridget, I wasn't just totally immersed in the political environment until then. I was still doing a lot of feature writing and stuff like that. So I can really only give you the my understanding sort of abstractly. But that was an interesting time for Trump, and it was an interesting time for the media as they sort of scrambled. And I would argue that the media, if you compared them to who they were in 2017 covering Trump, completely different. They have matured as well. Mm-hmm. And I think Trump, I keep thinking of the video of the Trump family in 2017 waiting to going out into the inauguration, and then the footage of that where they're just very nervous, looks like they were gladiators who knew they were going to get eaten by lions. Mm-hmm. And then you look at it from the inauguration in January of 2025, and they're just completely very relaxed. They're sort of the lions at that point. And so that mood is what was sort of the word relaxing is coming to mind. It was relaxing the way that the Trump and administration was acting, and it was relaxing the way that the media was responding, because I think they kind of winded themselves and came out on the other side with a lot of the same ambitions, but with less of the hysteria.
Well, I think part of that was also that, the money wasn't there anymore. When Trump wins the popular vote and you start to see the ratings for like CNN and MSNBC crater, and you don't see the clicks, you don't see the gigantic spike in subscriptions for the Washington Post and the New York Times like you did in 2017, then there's this sadness for media people of like, oh, is all this over? Is everything done? And yeah. B, there's less of an ideological push where in 2017, everything was like, journalism matters. Donald Trump hates journalists, which is the funniest thing that you could say.
Oh, yeah.
But because by the way, Biden and Obama hated journalists way more than Donald Trump does. Donald Trump says mean things about journalists into microphones, but he loves journalists because journalists give him attention.
Definitely.
But yeah, there was definitely a change here. March 2025, a historic blizzard paralyzes the southern states. Do you remember the blizzard of March of this year?
I love the stories you find because
these were communities in northern Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. The Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex was hit particularly hard. Over 400,000 customers losing power.
Yep. Yeah, as somebody who used to live in DFW.
In Dallas, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking that would happen. But yeah, I'm in Oklahoma, so we're used to a little bit of snow every March.
In March.
Yeah. We can and into April. We might get one early April, but so not usually, but yeah, that was fun. That was cool. But I didn't lose my power. So
that makes it less cool.
Yeah.
That makes it way less cool.
For sure. Yeah, just put your beers in the snow outside and you're good.
Oh, that just brings back such good memories. Such good memories.
Dude, snow beers.
The college newspaper that I worked at, I was in the news office that had a little the window opened to another, I think it was like the garage. So it's like the roof came up to where you could touch it outside of the news window. And so, Thursday nights would be for the Friday paper. That'd be the last paper of the week. Throw a few cans in there, get it nice and chilled, taste the Rockies, Few things better, man. Few things better.
Yeah, they're right up there with summer beer, like ice cold summer beers. A nice light.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Big time.
Shower beer, that's another good beer.
Oh, I love a good shower beer, dude. Yeah,
shower beer is I don't know, is if there's a culture that has normalized shower beers, that you start your day with a shower beer, or maybe like on Saturdays and Sundays, the kid runs into your room, but instead of bringing the slippers, just brings like a nice snow cone. And it's like, Daddy, you're going to take a shower? Like, yep, I'm heading on in right now. Crack. Oh,
dude, the Romans.
We can start it.
Oh yeah. The Romans have nothing on us.
Romans ain't got nothing on us. You stole most of your gods from the Greeks anyway. All right. Yeah. April, yes, Liberation Day. This is when things really kind of like the Republican coalition, which has obviously been led by the nose by Trump since 2016. They resisted, they fought, finally tamed into submission during 2024. The last gasp of resistance is kind of beaten out of it. The Never Trumpers are now basically Democrats, and you still have this queasiness though, and never have I seen it more on display than when people who have railed against tariffs their entire life now have to just kind of grit their teeth and look at Donald Trump holding up a board with a bunch of just insane numbers on it as he smiles widely, and the markets absolutely panic.
So, yeah. Okay. So here's my shout out to you.
Yeah.
Your coverage of tariffs was the best, most nuanced, most balanced, and obviously most refreshing for those reasons. Mm-hmm. Because you knew when to say, first of all, you actually know about tariffs. You actually understand them, but you also know the limitations of what you understand with regard to tariffs.
Yeah.
So, and this happens every major news cycle with a hyper focus on any one issue.
Yeah.
But the experts just fly out. The experts who were experts on the last news cycle suddenly know a lot about tariffs. But your coverage was spot on. That's essentially the only way I understood any of it.
Well, thank you. I still don't know if I totally understand what's happening. Here's one thing I will be very, very sure of. Every Democrat that's going to run in 2028 is going to say that they're going to repeal the tariffs. And then if a Democrat wins in 2028, they will repeal nothing. They will repeal absolutely nothing. Like this was they're going to like the revenue. Like that's the one thing. The revenue is going to be hard to let go of, now that it's coming in. And this is one of those only Trump can do it scenarios.
Yeah.
And also Democrats look, the craziest thing about the tariffs is that if you just went out and said, I am creating a tax on the richest multinational companies that do nothing but think every day about how to take away American jobs, union jobs, and we are not, because obviously this is a corrupt system. It's going to be hard to raise their personal tax rates. I'm going to create a tax that only taxes the things that they are taking away from the American worker, the union worker. Like that was the way that you sold these things to progressives who used to be the only people buying them. And now it was, because we are in this very weird horseshoe theory, coalition reshuffling moment, it was the MAGA folks that were the most into it.
Well said. That's always been very interesting to me.
For anyone that was into it, because that's the other side of this, is that some of these Trump 2.0 things, obviously he said it, he campaigned on it, but I don't know if anyone was really asking for it. Like people want jobs. They don't necessarily want tariffs. They're willing to say, if tariffs bring me jobs, then I will be for them. But also the Trump madman theory demands that like you never really know what's going on, because you had some people at that time that were saying we're bringing back the 50s. Everything is going to be manufactured in the United States. We're not going to rely on China. We're not going to rely on Vietnam. We're going to do everything ourselves. And then there were some people that were like, it's a bluff so we can make better trade deals, because really this is about more free trade, because the free trade deals that we struck eventually just get screwed up because of our partners, and we just need a hammer to hit our partners with. And I think the latter won out in terms of the public relations of this, but it certainly was not clear.
For sure. I would add one other element to this that fascinates me, and we saw it a lot over the course of this year, was the sort of realization you got from Gen Z as this in the infancy as a voting bloc, who were very decisive in the election, who made a lot of changes, a lot of bold. They were very bold in 2024 and rebellious in not a new way over the course of American history, but certainly a new way.
New for the most recent, recent history for sure.
Yeah, the last 50 years. That was one of the moments when we got to witness a new phase of this new era for them, which was, I didn't vote for that though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it's hard to it's hard to point out exactly what this is about. And part of the reason I do think that it's a massive liability for Trump right now is that people don't feel good about the economy. So if you don't feel good about the economy and you just did a big thing to the economy, then it's hard for you to say this is Biden's economy, because it is kind of a you break it, you buy it scenario. Now, if the economy got amazing in 6 months and people were like, oh my God, I actually love this economy, then he would get a lot of credit. He would be able to say, like, look, I fixed it. I was bold. But it's like, if you are bold and things are not good, then boy, are you going to get some blame. All right. I have, my May story here is.
Was that April? Did you do April?
This was April. April 2nd.
This was April.
April 2nd was Liberation Day.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. We'll do another Trump one. May 2025.
So I got fired from the Blaze in April. April. That was an interesting point for me. Obviously, personally, but also politically, because that's when really the first time that I thought, okay, gas and eggs are very important now. Yeah. And the price of them is very important. So that was, I got to experience that very personally. That's the only thing.
That's what they say is, a recession is when your neighbor loses his job. A depression is when you lose your job. And, that's really been the story of the last 3 years for me. Like, I know a lot of people that lost their job because a bunch of people that I know are in tech and stuff like that and media, and either of them are going particularly well. Tech winter has kind of lasted a long time because the interest rates have gone up, and that means that you're not going to have the VCs funding new ideas, which are going to create new companies, which means you hire people to put them there. And the media world is weird. It is weird right now.
It is. But that turned out to be the best moment of the best thing that ever happened. By the way, you were the first person I told about my job before I told my wife. I texted you. Yeah, I texted you, and it was very much because this is a discussion that you and I have had for a long time.
Yeah.
About the Blaze, and and you very gracefully saying, like, I think you do better in new media. And so now I am in new media, and that's was an important part of this year, obviously for me, but for the establishment media. Yeah. Really sort of like we're beyond cracking knees and early stages of dementia with the media. Like
it's in a weird place, which is odd because the Blaze was thought of as new media. Now it's kind of establishment, right?
It is absolutely. Yeah, it was new media. And so I got the reason I got into the Blaze, even though everybody was telling me not to, all my journalism friends were telling me just to stay away from it because it would destroy my chances at a media career. And my response was, well, I want to throw some Molotovs at the mainstream media. That's what I care about.
There's only a few platforms that will allow you to do it. Yeah,
for sure. So now I get to do it all over again.
Absolutely. All right. May 2025. And here's another Trump thing. Donald Trump does a big economic deal with Qatar. This will be our window into everything that has happened so far in the Middle East, a division that has roiled both parties. I don't think anybody has been spared by these shifting alliances where Qatar is. This is also at a period when, and we're going to get to this in a second, where we are in an escalating phase with the war between Hamas and Israel. Mm-hmm. But even now, today, there's a big fight on the right about Qatari influence in right-leaning media. You know, there were a few influencers that went to Qatar and wound up taking identical selfies and posting, which I can only assume is part of like a paid junket scenario to talk about how amazing Qatar is.
Well,
that was Saudi.
Later.
That was Saudi.
Oh,
yeah.
Saudi. Oh, yeah. That was
Saudi. Now I'm sure they also did a Qatar gig because they're going to do it there. But no, the Saudi comedy festival. Well, I don't know when that was, but it was around that time.
Yeah.
The ever shifting.
Was this when there was a whole controversy about Qatar giving Trump the plane?
This was around then. I think that might have been a little bit earlier that it became its own thing. But yeah, that was that's a weird story.
It was strange. But the thing I can add to what you said is, you know, having been deeply embedded in conservative and right-wing media, one of the biggest political battles of this year, and it began worsening at that point, has been taking place in right-wing media and in conservative media. I think that's part of the reason the media on the left has been so low-key this year, is it's like the meme of the Simpsons meme of the two monkeys fighting.
Yeah.
Like they have just stepped back and allowed the monkey fight to happen, which I mean, that's smart. It's smart not to get in between two fighting monkeys with knives.
Don't stop an enemy from self-destructing.
For sure. But that has been very interesting to watch. And obviously there are a few moments later in the year that just completely blew that everything wide open.
Yeah. June, U.S. airstrikes targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. One of the strangest weeks of the year.
Mm-hmm.
War with Iran has been something that has been discussed, sometimes seriously, sometimes as a boogeyman amongst American politics, certainly since the war on terror back, you know, in the 9/11 era.
Yeah.
We bomb Iran. John McCain smiles from the great beyond because we did the thing and bombed Iran. And then that's just kind of it.
Yeah.
Like, so it's the strangest thing to me. And we don't even really talk about it anymore. But it's like, in a weird way, usually historically, this is the military engagement that Americans like the most.
Yeah.
They love doing a thing and being done. What they don't like is doing a thing and being there forever. And then, you know, you're just constantly, it's one day, 1 month, 1 year after another.
Senator's son emerges from that.
Exactly. Right.
CCR is when you start hearing.
The bombing of Iran and then the lack of repercussions from it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that was another one that, you know, you and I were texting quite a bit during that. And, you know, anytime any huge political or cultural moment takes place, you and I, we've talked about this, we get flooded by texts from everybody we know who wants to know.
Mean? Yeah.
Yeah. What does this mean? Do you know anything beyond what's going on in the media? And a lot of times we do, which is part of why we enjoy this job that we're both fortunate to have. And that was one of those moments when mean, what you had to say in the texts was what I took to you know, dinner parties and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, a couple times I was just reading the text under the table. And they would ask a question and I'd be like, hold up, give me 2 minutes. That was interesting because like I say all that because I really did not know what was going to happen next any more than anyone else did.
Yeah. And it was nothing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right that's the fascinating part of it.
Yeah.
That and that's one thing
because I think it took everybody by surprise. There were elements. If you look at the schisms on the right, this was a huge one because there's a massive part of this MAGA coalition that is anti-war, that was anti-Iraq war, they're anti-Russia-Ukraine war. They just kind of don't care. They don't want to spend the money, and then plus anything that goes on with Israel. But Iran has been, noted enemy of the United States for a very long time. This was a targeted strike. It didn't involve any civilians. It took out two, gigantic senses of dread for the entire region because nobody in that region wants Iran to be a nuclear power. So, and meanwhile, you got Tucker Carlson yelling at Ted Cruz. This is a huge part of the Marjorie Taylor Greene separation from Donald Trump because they're going on and on about, hey, all your sons and daughters are going to die going to war because of Iran. What do we give a rat's ass about, the people of Tehran? Didn't we just do this? And then it's like, nothing.
Yeah. Brett Baer was dusting off the soldier's helmet and the press.
Exactly.
Vest. I mean, everybody was. Anderson Cooper's like, here
we go.
The Hurricanes in no time.
Dick Cheney's like, I don't know, maybe this guy's not so bad.
that was the last time.
Liz, maybe you misread him. We get to go to war in Iran? Like,
yeah, it was. I've enjoyed that about Trump. How quickly things turn into nothing with him. Because that's really not characteristic of him.
Because you kind of think sometimes some things happen and you're like, well, this is going to define the next 10 years. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like they go to commercial break and then it's totally just disappeared.
For sure. And there were several moments this year where sort of the opposite of that happened. But I'm sure we'll get to a couple of those events.
July 2025. And this was something that
warming up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. This is something that happened, right around my neck of the woods. And those were catastrophic Texas floods that came in and, did tremendous damage over the July 4th holiday weekend. Rivers and creeks swelled to unprecedented speeds. The San Antonio River rose from a trickle to 25 feet deep in a matter of hours. And at least 135 people were killed and dozens more reported missing in the floods, specifically a girls' summer camp for which there were many deaths. This is an ongoing story even to this day because they've announced that they are going to reopen the camp next summer. Many of the families very mad about it, and also a lot of questions as to how far into areas that they knew might flood did they build buildings, therefore putting these girls in harm's way. It was a 500-year flood, as they said. Obviously not a whole lot to debate here. Just any thoughts on, the loss of life or the reaction to it?
Very tragic. Very tragic.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. Just the stories that emerged. You and I have talked about this before, but the other side of being involved in the media as a profession brings about having to cover and dive into stories like this that are devastating to understand.
Yeah.
And those are the moments that it's really not fun to do this job.
No, I think it's the most warping part of the job of a reporter. And, it's funny. I had this conversation with another friend of mine yesterday where I was talking about, I always bristle whenever somebody calls me a reporter because I'm not a reporter in the way that I used to be a reporter. I used to be a reporter that would go to places like this And I would call numbers that I had never called before, or I would knock on doors that were not expecting me. And I would go ask somebody who was having the worst day of their lives, one that would affect the rest of their existence, how they felt and what they knew. And sometimes questions that were even more probing than that. That to me is a reporter, because that is the lifestyle that you have to adopt, which is turning off certain parts of your brain that say, don't do this. Don't talk to that person. They are having the worst, this is a unimaginably bleak tragedy. Do not talk to that person. Do not ask them questions about these things that might bring them to tears. But, that's what the job is. That to me, that is what a reporter's job is. And if we're going to psychoanalyze it even further, I do think that it's part of the job that does warp you. Like when you are used to turning off those parts of your brain, it's hard to go back to a world where you don't know that you can. And I think when you look at sometimes journalism's inhumanity, I think it's kind of rooted in that, but I don't know a way around it. I think that's the only way that you get the news that so clearly informs our society.
Definitely. There are many paradoxes in these kind of situations. I've never liked seeing excitement in reporters when tragedy happens, and that's not a widespread situation, but I have seen a lot of it. And there one of the paradoxes.
I've had it. I mean, I've done it. Look, journalism attracts a few certain kinds of personalities, of which I am two of the most typical: adrenaline junkies and gossips. If you are an adrenaline junkie gossip, like if you love knowing the thing that other people don't know, and you get very excited if you are going like to into something that you shouldn't, or you're doing something that you shouldn't, or like, you like roller coasters or something like that. Like that is the prototype, in my opinion, the prototypical reporter. I think there's a lot of things that go into journalism and you need more of a level head if you're an editor. But the reporter, the blunt, or the tip of the drill that's supposed to get at the thing, you kind of got to be a little weird. And some of that means just thinking differently. I don't know. Excited might be a little weird, but like certainly prepared, like you would be for like a, in control of your adrenaline, because you've ramped it up so many times.
Definitely. And I have experienced that as well. The adrenaline aspect. And, there's a situation I'm sure we'll talk about where I definitely experienced that and was I had a lot of conflicting feelings about it. But you're right that one of our jobs, I would call you a reporter, by the way, but I understand the nuance of what you're saying. You used to be a reporter in a
I kind of think it's stolen valor because I don't talk to anyone I don't want to. And to me, 90% of the job that I had before was talking to people that I desperately did not want to talk to. Like I'll go to rallies and other people will be interviewing people at rallies. And I'm like, I know what they're going to say. They're excited to be here at the rally. Like what, how many quotes do I need from the people that are at the convention for the thing? I would rather observe them and be like, those people look nervous. Those people look happy. Those people look mad. I don't need to talk to them to do that. But that is where I would draw the line. Like reporters, good reporters, the reporters that matter, talk to people that they don't want to. This is a professional skill to hunt down and talk to people. And I don't do any of that. I just watch the news. I watch people. I'm at places. I think I'm a good vibe detector, but there's no school. There's no class in J school that's like vibe detection. Maybe I should lead it. Maybe there should be, but there is none. I was not trained in that.
Definitely. And because you're right, one of our jobs, and I think this is what makes you a reporter, because you do this. And that has also become my approach as well, the like vibe journalism. But it's important to capture trends, and capturing trends usually involves acknowledging or collecting data for situations and events that are purely awful. Because if we don't capture those trends, we can't make any advancement as a society, and that's what we really need.
Yeah, we
That's
need
what
the
we
stories.
should be in it
we
for.
need to understand them, and especially we need to understand the scope and breadth of them. And that's where I think some of the stuff that turned against the left side of the aisle was because there was kind of like a blind eye. We spent a lot of time talking about what Donald Trump might have said in a room, and not a lot of time talking about, hey, what is the situation of migrants that get here, like through the Darien Gap, and the level of rape and murder and extortion that happens to the poorest people that want any kind of a different life here? What about the people that are dying of, drug overdoses in some of our most major American cities that we consider, homelessness? Like there's a lack of telling of those stories in mainstream outlets that I think wound up eventually spilling out because it felt disconnected from people's daily lives. If you lived in a city, you're like, oh, I see a lot of fentanyl foil or, pipes or needles in people's arms. And this is just my experience in the Bay Area, that it's like, I don't think this was all just capitalism, that all these people just missed a rent payment and now they're out here. They seem like drug users. And, when you pay attention to some of these stories, it's like, I don't know, that's where I think there needed to be more. That's where our biggest mainstream outlets that I do think are incredibly important, they missed their mandate.
They did. And that's
because they were politically inconvenient.
Well said. And people hate that. Most people hate that inability that you just described.
Yeah. August, the United States-Russia summit in Alaska. Vladimir Putin in the United States for the first time in many, many years. Thought to be a big step forward in the peace process with Russia and Ukraine. Almost all European leaders have to come running to DC a day after all that happens. And yet here we are, kind of squadouche. Well, I mean, who knows? Allegedly there is progress, but let me just ask you in general about Russia and Ukraine. I don't think the American people care about it in the same way. I think that obviously there's a class of Americans that care deeply. A lot of them are online. But in general, I don't know if anybody cares. Like, where does this issue sit for you today as we speak here in December?
I tend to look at that situation in terms of a conflict that's really hard to understand because it's been going on so long. We've joked about this before, but one of my favorite parts of having Putin in Alaska, if you read Russian media, is, just how he lifted 80 people into the air with his muscular arms as he was riding horses. No, but in all seriousness, if a heavily propagandized conflict and I think that's part of what made it so difficult. It's easy to raise the flag onto your porch, the Ukrainian flag, and it's much harder to parse out what the situation actually is.
Yeah.
That's my sort of general take. And a conflict that once again America is indirectly involved in, that maybe they shouldn't be involved in, but the politics of this situation beyond what seems to be some widespread corruption which maybe or maybe not we should dive into and pay more attention
look,
to.
Ukraine is a corrupt country. Like there's no question about that. I mean, you've got officials that are stepping down now because of it. And I don't think that there's much of a question that Ukraine has this problem of graft. What I think that does complicate the idea that, like, all right, well, where is this going to land in a peace, right? Like where what can be agreed on? And that's the one thing that I've been heartened with as we move forward, is that everybody's kind of mad now, which usually means that we're getting toward a place where people will eventually settle. But I don't think this is going to be quote unquote fair for Ukraine, because they're next to a larger aggressive state where the head of state believes that he should own Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard to kind of go, but beyond what we understand as like fairness, and understand that there is some law of the jungle, and ultimately we're kind of moving to a place in the United States where if the economy is doing great, the greatest thing that Ukraine could hope for is that the economy booms. Because when the economy booms and everybody's making money, then it's like, you want to know what? I hate Putin. Why don't you? Yeah, we should be pushing further into Russia. Let's have Ukraine take Moscow. Like, but when money's tight and we're like, how much money we spending on that? Like, and you can point to Russian propaganda, but I don't know. I think it's a pretty simple scenario. It's also kind of crazy that it's the Democratic side that's more in this Reagan-esque, like, we can't back down position. Just yet another one of these horseshoe theory, Freaky Friday moments.
Yeah, post-modernism politics, where everything rapidly becomes topsy-turvy from what it was very recently. And that's something that you were pointing out a minute ago, just how serious that fluctuation, if you want to call it, or topsy-turvy is the word that keeps coming back with the normalcy, that it's become so normal to flip like that. The horseshoe just keeps spinning.
The horseshoe is being tossed. It's in midair at our metaphorical family picnic.
Yeah.
September.
Okay.
And this one we'll probably spend a fair amount of time on. Charlie Kirk assassinated in Utah. He was he was at an event, one of his Turning Point USA events, where he would take questions from the audience. Within 48 hours, authorities arrested the 22-year-old male suspect in connection with the assassination. More information has obviously since come out on that. There's a million ways that we can tackle this one. And obviously this is a little bit more involved, as, we both know people in conservative media that, many were personal friends of Charlie Kirk. And then there's everything that's happened since then, which is its own conversation that we can kind of comment on now. Where do you want to start?
Man, I mean, this was the story of the year for sure. And I was around Charlie Kirk. I don't know. He would not have known, he would not have known who I was, because there were so many people. He was at Mercury Studios a lot. And he was Tyler Carden, the CEO, he was hanging out with Charlie Kirk. They went to a baseball game the week before. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot. Charlie Kirk was on the cusp of a lot of really big and exciting things, new shows and new approaches and all kind of, we've talked about Charlie Kirk for a while. The thing that interested me or fascinated me, I don't want to use the word fascination, but you understand what I mean. Immediately afterwards is the realization among the left. So on the left, most of them did not know who Charlie Kirk was. and certainly
beyond clips that are assembled as an enemy, right? As a bad person in the way that political propaganda often finds people that can be looked at as the worst of the worst and then shined up for the friendly audience.
Well said. Yeah, well said. The only portion of the left that really, really knew about Charlie Kirk was the far left. And obviously that's where it came from. But on the right, and I think that liberals right up to the far left, every gradation of the left, did not realize that the entirety of the right, from center really all the way to as far right as you can get, loved Charlie Kirk.
Well, with one notable exception, and we'll get into that in a second. But
I think I know. Yeah. Yes, an interesting exception, but overwhelmingly, if you compare the left and the right, the right was united mostly around Charlie Kirk, and it was a full-blown assault. It was an attack on the right. That's how they took it. There was a lot of anger, and there was, I think the left has labeled it as cancel culture, the response from the right. But I think what happened is that the rules changed immediately. And the right no longer cared about playing playing by the rules of the game. And I mean, I had friends who got fired from their jobs for social media comments, and not in the media, like my teacher friends just spouted off and said things that were okay as recently as the attempted assassination on Trump last year. Those rules changed. So they didn't lose their jobs when they said, "Oh, thoughts and prayers for Trump." It became a much different game, and the right it changed the right possibly forever.
It just in the idea that, all right, well, if a school teacher says, rest in piss, Charlie Kirk, instead of it just being a thing that you think worse of that person, now I'm going to call the school and be like, this person needs to be fired.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. There was a little bit of, we got to witness the free speech absolutists drawing a line.
Well, being a little less absolute.
Yes, exactly. And I don't blame them for that. It didn't, even as somebody who was around Charlie Kirk fairly regularly at the Blaze Studios, I think he would have been, I think he truly was a free speech absolutist and would have supported not the content of what a lot of those people were saying, but just their right to say it. And that's where I stand personally as well. It's like, it's ugly, it's nasty, but one of my teacher friends, I wrote a letter to the school board saying, look, this is my background. And it didn't bother me what he said, to the extent that I think he needs to get fired, but I understand why he did. And maybe it was the right thing to happen, but I still defended him.
Look, maybe I'm going to have a lot more informed opinions on this as my own daughter goes to school and I start dealing with the strange collective that is public education. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are around that. My gut is the following. Number one, when you're dealing with public funds, there is a different expectation for how you comport yourself publicly, because that's true about city officials. That's true about state officials. That's true about a lot of things. And teachers are probably the furthest extremity of that, but you're always going to have people that if they get mad, if you are giving people reasons to be mad at you, then they will be able to say, why am I paying for you to do this? That is just a consequence of relying on public funds for your job. 2, there is a problem that we have, and this is not particularly related to Charlie Kirk, but it is something that became very obvious in the aftermath with discretion and inhumanity. And the discretion side, I would say, is probably the blips of it are when somebody dies, just natural causes, or a celebrity dies. We have this kind of incontinence that we need to say our opinion on it, good or bad, by the way. And I found myself kind of restraining in. If like a celebrity dies, like, I don't know, I don't want to make it seem like this person meant the world to me, because now it almost feels gross that I'm like using this person's memory or corpse for my own attention. And instead I'll just, if it's an artist whose art I really loved, I'll post a clip or something, or I'll just, have something that very clearly is like, I love this art. Just so everybody knows this person's gone. I don't need to write a 7,000 word eulogy in 15 parts on Twitter. Just boom, this person's dead. Here's my favorite scene from the movie. But on the other side is I need to let everybody know why I didn't like this person. And that's where things get stickier. And discretion, I think, is the better part of value there, but discretion is not a value that's rewarded on an internet message board. Nobody ever got more popular on an internet message board for not commenting. You only get credit if you play, right? And to play is to register your thoughts. The more provocative, the better. And we saw this few places more viscerally than Charlie Kirk. Because unlike Trump, he died. Trump could have died, didn't die. Charlie Kirk was dead, and he was dead in public, and he was dead in front of everybody in video, right?
Yeah. It was horrific. It was
horrifying.
Horrific video too.
Horrifying. I mean, I was streaming, or not streaming. I was recording, and all of a sudden my phone blows up, my iMessage blows up. I break the news while we're recording the We're Not Wrong Patreon episode. And then, I get sent the clip, and I think all I know is that Charlie Kirk was shot. I think it's like Reagan, right? Like it's, somebody runs up on him and puts one in his stomach or something like that. No, it's what it is. It is gruesome and horrible. I called it Faces of Death immediately upon seeing it.
That's what it was.
And so and then it's like, okay, so you're going to be inhumane. We're all shaped by our own worldview, right? So if you are, if you saw the video and you're like, oh my God, like what brutality, like has broken through to the American political landscape. And then the next thing you read is somebody saying, rest in piss, Charlie Kirk. You're immediately assuming that they also saw that video, that they also watched somebody die in front of you. And you're like, well, this is terrible. It was a dark day. It was a dark several days that, you have somebody that, was cut from the Rush Limbaugh mold, was a Rush Limbaugh disciple. So he said some out-of-pocket stuff, like Rush Limbaugh said out-of-pocket stuff, and if you boil down somebody to just that, then they're going to be different to you than they are a bunch of other people. And that was like one of those things where it's like, I kind of feel like we just need better internet training, that if we all are living in public. Like our low light reel in general isn't going to be great. My low light reel, if you pull just the most out of pocket things that I've said, and I'm like, my brand is keeping it low key, right? But you could probably pull either first reactions from events that turned out differently, or when I've done the comedy show for, since I was in my late 20s, the stuff that late 20s Justin wanted to say into a microphone and the stuff that early 40s Justin thinks is appropriate are often two different things. Like, definitely. I like to think that I probably haven't changed, but I'm sure there's stuff recorded somewhere that people are like, oh, Jesus, why would you say that?
Yeah, that's what I would add to the nuance. That's a level of nuance I would add to the earlier statement I made with regard to the rules changing, is that it was because of the video that was out and because of the gruesomeness of it, the right immediately realized that this was not a political issue. This was a humanity issue. And a lot of people on the left, and this is a generalization because a lot of people on the left also jumped to the center or to center right as a result of it. Yeah. But their mistake was assuming it was a political activity, which it was, but not primarily. So I had family come to me and say, well, what about Paul Pelosi?
Yep.
And it's, okay, yeah, that was awful and terrible and not okay. But this is much, much different. And we need to be able to acknowledge when something is far more serious than there are levels of how bad this is. And we need to sincerely look at everybody here and have a serious conversation about where this violence emerged from, because once politics becomes violent, we need to reevaluate.
It's hard to put that back in the bottle.
Definitely.
When you look at it as an effective tool, which brings us to the other side of this.
Yes.
Which is that the right has not been the same.
No.
Since Charlie Kirk died. Now, like, there's a million different things that you can point to, but like, I got friends of mine that are very much in the right ecosystem, in the conservative media ecosystem, and there is one story that they focus on almost daily, and it's Candace Owens. And yep. Candace Owens fighting with Turning Point USA. She has moved into a world of, like, if InfoWars were the Lifetime channel, it is like a female-centric conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
She is now being sued by Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron, the the president of France, and his wife, because Candace Owens transvestigated Brigitte and, determined that not only was she a man, but she might have been Macron's father. There's a lot of very, very out-of-pocket stuff that Candace Owens has done. But the thing that she's done the most lately is talk about how Charlie Kirk was assassinated, not by Tyler Robinson, the person that was arrested by the FBI and now faces trial for his murder, but rather by some kind of amalgamation of the Israelis and the Egyptians, and there was a plane that flew hither and yon and blah, 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 blah. That is what it is. Candace Owens has gotten a lot of attention because of it. And then you also have somebody that was feuding with Charlie Kirk in Nick Fuentes. who is a streamer on the right. Well, I mean, he's in his own universe, but if you've ever heard the term Groyper is his following. They are race realists, and that's, I think, their own term for it. But when people are like, "Oh, Charlie Kirk was racist," I'm like, well, no, like,
God.
Nick Fuentes is like,
oh yeah,
white people have bigger skulls and therefore are more capable than black people and Indian people. Like that is the Nick Fuentes way of the world. Like Nick Fuentes is out and out. I'm quoting Nick Fuentes. The problem isn't Israel, right? So there is a mainstream conversation about the support of Israel and the actions of Israel, especially over the last several years. Nick Fuentes' point, this is again, I'm quoting him. The problem isn't Israel. It is the international Jewry. All right. Like when you get into the phrase Jewry, you are in a different world, right? Like there was no point. What Charlie Kirk did was essentially the next version of Rush Limbaugh. He dealt with mainstream political topics from the conservative point of view. Did he do things like make fun of Paul Pelosi when we didn't know all the details on that story? Yes, he did. Did he wade into conversations about the Civil Rights Act? Yes, he did. When you're filling that many hours on a radio show, you especially if you are in that mold, you are going to get into those conversations, and they're not all going to age well. Nick Fuentes, who is on more than Charlie Kirk was, because he's more in this streamer mold of being online for hours and hours and hours every night, talking to anybody that wants to sit in that chat room. He is of a different persuasion. He is just a different kind of guy. But it's hard to say that he has not had an increased profile since Charlie Kirk died. Candace Owens has had an increased profile since Charlie Kirk died. The vibes since Charlie Kirk died on the right have been bad. It is a bad time. People are not in a let's debate back and forth, but obviously we all know that what the true North Star is. The true North Star is being debated. And I think it's probably simplistic to say that Charlie Kirk was desperately holding everything together, but he certainly was somebody that talked a lot about doing that. And there's not a lot of people that are even talking a lot about doing that now.
I don't think that's simplistic at all. I think that's very accurate. I would also say that what bothered me is how quickly after his death, many on the right turned the situation into like a mud fight among pigs.
Yeah.
There was a lack of dignity. And it's what seemed to be an insincerity, because my immediate reaction was, Candace Owens was at one point extremely close with Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm. And was extremely pro-Israel to be fair. There doesn't take a lot to look at that.
She was anti-Trump if you go farther than, she was
on the left.
Yeah.
Pro-cancel. She wanted to create a cancel culture social media site so you'd be able to track and people would remain canceled. That was her first foray into public life.
Definitely. And I don't have any problem with people's political evolution. I don't even really feel the need to talk about the sincerity of it a lot of times. But I think in this situation, it is highly relevant. And the evolution of Fuentes is the thing that bothers me about that. There are several things that bother me, but the reaction on the left seems a little bit dangerous and a little bit sneaky, because you have the New York Times profiling him and using all the same tactics to keep them out of trouble, but also seeming to empower this guy and push him to the throne. so that he will continue to say these very damning things while empowering the right and empowering voices on the right to say really damning things as well, while keeping record of it. So, because the left is on its way back to power, and I'm not a guy who uses the term woke, but the culture that has been labeled woke is not done. They're resting, they're warming up, they're stretching, and I think they're also keeping track of it all in a way that the right doesn't have time for anymore. So I'm not a huge fan of that approach by anybody. And I may be wrong about that, but it seems to be what's happening. And it's going to be dirty later in a way that I just don't like. I know it's realistic. It happens. We've seen it from everybody, but it's ugly, and it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
It's disheartening. It is disheartening because I do think that what you lost was somebody that, when you disagreed with things that Charlie Kirk said, Charlie Kirk was mannered and orderly in terms of defending himself. Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens are kind of like the worst faith elements of right-wing dialogue, in my opinion.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
They are. I'm going to say this, and I mean it honestly. I long for the dignity of Alex Jones when I see those two. I long for the austere way that it was, the sepia-toned way that it was with Alex Jones, because at the very least, Alex Jones is somebody that I think is better read than both of them. And, you can press him on things that he will retreat to. And I'm not saying he's a great debater per se, but Alex Jones will say on Joe Rogan, I'm a little retarded. Right. Yeah. And I don't mean, I know people get upset when that's said, but he will go and say that about himself, that, and there's an element of showmanship and humility that comes along with somebody that is a provocateur that does not seem there with either of these two. And also I just find the most distasteful elements of Alex Jones are the false flag stuff. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're involving, and obviously he burnt his hand on that stove with Sandy Hook.
Oh, but big time.
That's the most distasteful stuff. That doesn't even begin to get to where I find the distasteful commentary is with stuff with Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. Like, I find both of them to be, especially now, the Charlie Kirk stuff with Candace Owens now is just bad. Disgusting to me. It's disturbing. She's reading text messages from before he married his wife about going on a date with somebody else. And it's like, that doesn't illuminate anything about Charlie Kirk. You're just...
Nobody liked it either. It's like the meme. Nobody likes that.
Nobody liked it. That. And that's the beginning of the Fuentes stuff, where it's like, look, Fuentes is more charismatic than Candace Owens. The reason why he is who he is has nothing to do with what he says, in my opinion. It has entirely everything to do with the fact that he's a streamer. That man is online at night where lonely dudes want something on, and then his groypers propagate that throughout the ecosystem for which it can find a sympathetic audience.
Yeah.
He is not there because his thoughts are mainstream. He is not there because his thoughts are even particularly compelling. Like, it's just kind of rote anti-Semitism and Hitler apologia. Like, there's not really a whole lot there. it is depressing. I think it is very rarely have I seen there be a more depressing era in the right. When I do think that also there's a lot of really interesting conversations that can be happening on the right as they constitute a new working class coalition and a coalition that includes more gay dudes. I mean, they are openly courting gay dudes in a way that like had never really happened before. There's a lot of conversation that can happen about abortion and pro-life and pro-choice. That's a much more muddied issue. You can have spirited debates on the right. And like the fact that it's all just about Groyper nonsense and whether or not Brigitte Macron has a dong is just, and that's before you get into the Israeli planes or Candace Owens is, she's going to be assassinated by the French and one Israeli because you got to keep some of the Jew stuff in there.
Yeah. Tune in this Wednesday.
I know.
There's a lot of that going on.
Well, she was like,
the scoop of the
French have ordered to hit on me and one Israeli. The French and one Israeli have ordered to hit on me. And also I'm going to take off until after Thanksgiving. So we'll see you December 1st if I'm not assassinated by the French Foreign Legion and one Israeli.
Have you seen The Day of the Jackal?
No.
You would like it just because it's and it's relevant to France as well. It's a situation where you have a terroristic assassination, and I won't say anything more than that. That doesn't ruin anything. But it's a brilliant movie, and it's got all the elements of Hollywood that might make it sensational. It was something that was running through my mind during all of this.
Yeah.
So I like your comment about Alex Jones because I think the connotation is that we didn't realize first of all, the frogs were gay. It was like
they were making the freaking frogs gay. They were making the freaking frogs
gay. They were Republican gay frogs. But I think what your connotation is that at the time you would not have said that about Alex Jones. Like, oh, I love what Alex Jones is saying, but you pine for the days that that was extreme.
That he was the nut.
Yeah.
Like I liked him. He was the nut. He was like the coast to coast AM. Like, and yeah, every once in a while you say something super crazy, right? Because when you're that guy, you gotta keep it riled up. Like if you live in a world of conspiracy.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, well, Limbaugh did it better than anybody because, like, he only really went there every once in a while. Like, he would touch the third rail like enough to make himself interesting, but every once in a while he would really hit it. Like, it would be Michael J. Fox, a Michael J. Fox impression about having MS, which, by the way, then Michael J. Fox admits to. Michael J. Fox admits, he's like, yeah, when I'm in public and I'm raising money, I just make sure I don't take my meds a few days so I look really bad so everybody is going to pay more. Like, he talks about that. Anyway.
No, when Limbaugh would grab the mic, like, oh, this is going to be some spicy red meat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he would, call, who was the lady he called a whore?
Yeah.
Like, it was like a college student.
Yeah.
Sandra Fluke.
That sounds right.
Sandra Fluke.
And he called her, he used the word whore, right? Or was floozy or was it whore?
Let's see. Did I get that right? Rush Limbaugh, Sandra Fluke controversy. God, who's got it, baby?
Oh, man.
February 29, 2012. Called her a slut and a prostitute.
That was it. Yeah. And that was
because of she testified to mandate insurance coverage of contraceptives.
Remember when that was big?
She is a slut and a prostitute, dear listeners. Sandra Fluke, a 30-year-old law student at Georgetown University, covered now by a lady journalist. saying the following.
She hates freedom, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, this is a culture for which the message board has become the center ring of our discourse.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be that. A message board used to be supportive. The art stood, people judged the art, and then people went to the message board.
Yeah.
And now, because we have no media that cuts through the noise by way of technological supremacy.
Yeah.
The message board is the way that you get the media.
For sure.
So that means everybody is on there, which means the discourse is the thing, which means that you do have characters that are good at putting themselves at the center of it. And people like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, who have enough of a name that if they go Super Saiyan and say something crazy or out of pocket, then they're just going to get more attention. It's now going to be what it is, where it's like, oh, why are you the right of all places talking about why you platform Nick Fuentes, when it's like, just shut up about him. It's fine. Yeah. He went on Tucker. Like, he's a weird gay dude who hangs out in his basement and, talks about Hitler. Just let him Hitler it up in the basement. Like, the best thing you could do is to lift up other people that you would want to be at the center of the discourse, because the discourse is all that matters right now. That's it. Can you stay in the conversation? And right now, the two biggest conversations in the right media ecosystem are Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. I think we've talked enough about it.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that was good. But yeah, that's what bothers me. That's what bothered me. Yeah. The discourse has risen to that point. And the reason why I have not talked about it, I've tried to not talk about it at all until this thing. This is going to be my final. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah. Because I don't like him, and I would rather talk about the things that I want to talk about, because this is an internet native's understanding. I understand these grounds, Kevin. I understand them as they are old as when God drew his fingers through this valley and pinched into the mountains. I understand these internet worlds. I understand their trails and their smells and his built into my DNA, because you just don't talk about them. Don't look. Just don't look. Do 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 do. As Lisa Simpson and Paul Anka once sang. October 2025, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. What do we learn, Kevin? We've talked about this before. I'm pretty loose on what. I'm not a purist about politics. I understand it's dirty, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm not somebody who's screeching for transparency. I think they need to go behind the curtains and do the strange things that they do behind them. And we don't need to know about that. We don't need to, we don't, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them making exceptions for themselves to an extent, but you got to keep the government running. You do whatever you have to do behind the curtain in order to keep it going. This weaponization, and their paychecks didn't stop. Their assistants didn't have to worry about that. They don't even buy their own groceries. So
the staff did stop. I was on Capitol Hill, they weren't getting a check.
Interesting. And they were still working.
Yeah. The ones that were in the office were.
So when you said you were on Capitol Hill, you were covering it at that time of the government shutdown?
Yeah. I was in the house, walking around, talking to people, chopping it up.
What was the consensus among the people you were talking to?
They had no idea. I mean, it was probably the most depressing day that I have been around a political event, because it was, nobody was talking. Normally, when you're talking to congressional people, staffers, stuff like that, they will not shut up about details.
Yes.
They are all about details. They are like, Well, you have to understand is that the FAFSA doesn't do the MRFSA, and then, that sunsets in 2031, but it actually can be extended. And a lot of people don't know that the DERP doesn't do, because it vests earlier. And there's a special election that's got, they love details, right? That's why they're there. That is their passion. They want to understand the exact levers of government because they want to pull them the most effectively.
Yes.
Nobody had any idea. I was like, so what's going on? Where does this eventually land? Oh. Huh. And I was like, all right, well, this is depressing. Like, if you guys don't have details. Now, what happened is, and we'll just get to it here, November stretches into November, and the Democrats do really well in the off-year elections, off-year elections. So they win Virginia by more than they thought. They win New Jersey by more than they thought.
New York City.
And all of a sudden it was like, oh, that was the reason. The fighting worked.
Yeah.
It worked to say, we're standing for something. We're going to put a stop to Donald Trump's corrupt autocracy. And it rallied. It was, even if it didn't make a lot of sense, it put a us versus them line in the sand. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, then that just kind of means that the Democrats are the Tea Party now. Like the Democrats care about Epstein and they hate tariffs and they're talking about fiscal issues, but they also will shut the government down because they're not happy about things. Like, it's just, it's enough to make you want to pop a Dramamine, Kev.
Yeah.
It's a little seasick.
Let's go with the Dramamine in general. Yeah. What's interesting is how quickly that sentiment collapsed after they were successful in the elections. To me, from my perspective, people turned on Democrats pretty quickly afterwards and realized, this seems like a power grab. This seems like they're looking to, the word leverage began to pop up a lot.
Leverage.
Did you cover, you must have covered Mamdani.
Yeah. We talked about him a lot. I thought he ran an extraordinary campaign.
Yeah.
An extraordinary campaign. He was really, 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 really good. Now, how will he be as mayor? Anybody who tells you that they know is lying.
Definitely.
He's a charismatic guy. He's got a great brand. He's been, you could write a book about how well he chose his issues.
That
because it was a
written.
Great kind of something for everybody. Perspective. Can he do any of it?
I think that
we'll find out.
That's what we started with too. And I think that will be the response inevitably among the people who are most enthusiastic about him is, wait a minute. And that changed pretty quickly with him, just with, money, please, on day one, and then lavish hotel trip. And okay, this guy seems to be once again another politician who used populism to gain power, and maybe he'll wind up in Senate or make a run for the White House. He can't
because he's not born in
that's right
the USA.
Rookie mistake. Yeah.
So it'd only be a Senate run at the highest, or he could be named to a cabinet position. But we'll see. We'll see. To quote Joe Biden, he is articulate, clean, and nice.
He always botches it.
Clean and nice. That's it.
Clean. Clean is the one that's very the Biden.
Not 2012 Sandra Fluke. I'm so pumped. I remembered Sandra Fluke's name. That's
that was a slam dunk.
My Limbaugh lore.
That's 2025.
I was so
That
depressed,
sound
dude.
You just made. That was
I was so depressed. The shutdown was just like, it's like, oh, okay. And then it ends in this like kind of anticlimactic fashion where it's like the Democrats are like, cool, we got what we wanted. Moving on.
Yeah, I didn't.
But they didn't. I mean, any of the legislative stuff that they said it was about is not going to happen. Like,
That's what I didn't like about it. That's what really bothered me. All right, moving on, got what we wanted.
Yeah.
That was
all right. And that brings us to December, and in full transparency, we are 5 days into December when we are recording this. This will air later in December. So maybe the craziest thing that ever happened in December. If something so crazy happens in December, I will call Kevin back and we will redo December.
5 days is all you need in America. 5 days of
But we already have something here, and that is the pardon of the ex-Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who had been convicted in U.S. federal court for facilitating a massive cocaine trafficking operation. Hernandez was serving a lengthy prison sentence in West Virginia after his conviction. The Trump clemency order not only freed Hernandez from prison, but also wiped away his conviction, an extraordinary move that, given Hernandez's crimes, were tied to narco trafficking that impacted the United States. This also happens while we are in the process of designating two various groups in Venezuela as narco terrorists. Therefore, according to the administration, making it legal for them to shoot missiles at their boats, what we deem to be their boats.
Bombing boats.
You can take it from the narco trafficking side, from the pardon side. What interests you here?
What interests me, I guess, initially is what I call space dibs. And that's America's ability to... Space Force to me represents, okay, we own space. We'll traffic space. It's ours. We're America. Yeah. Well, you know, there's only one flag on the moon, or there's only one set of boot prints on the moon. So I think that is at play in the bombing boats. I obviously have no problem with bombing the boats of narco terrorists, and I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't make that such a universal statement. I probably need to add something more. But we're just flying on a fast moving train here, so that's what I'm going to go with. So the pardon, though, why did Trump do that?
No one knows.
That's my favorite Trump.
Nobody knows. Yeah. Nobody knows. It's provocative. Get the people going.
Yeah. I love his I love Winnie's Babe Ruth or John Wayne, and he calls the home run for the sick kid.
I mean, I don't know who he called this one for. It was just a pallet of blow showed up in, Trump Tower, and he's like, all right, Juan Orlando Hernandez, get out of here. You little scamp. Stop putting drugs in the community. No, so I bet you learned your lesson. Deported? I don't know. I don't know whether I would. I don't know. Maybe he's he's in South Beach as we speak doing rails. But that and Henry Cuellar, the Democratic congressman that people thought, oh, maybe he'll switch parties. No, he's just going to run as a Democrat in Texas.
Did you say he's Salvadorian?
No, Honduran.
Honduran. Okay. That kind of complicates things too.
No, El Salvador, Bukele in El Salvador may well go down as one of the most impactful figures. It's very weird because the Western world has largely shaped Central and South America over the last 50 years. And now you look at some of the things that are happening there, and it's like they're kind of wagging the dog because Bukele doing what he did in El Salvador, which was, for those of you who are unaware of the shorthand, essentially just determined that while gangs ran El Salvador, if he's the president and he has the army, he is the head of the biggest gang. So he's like, what if we just didn't act like we had a rule of law? Yeah. What if we were just a gang for good? and we just did gangbanger stuff to the rival gangs. And he brought down crime to a like comical level. I mean, like it is insane. Like they have like they've reversed their migration trends where more people used to leave El Salvador. Now more people come to settle in El Salvador than did before. That's an insane transformation, but it happened by violation of what we think to be Western norms.
Yes.
Like that you have civil rights and you should you shouldn't act like a gang. You shouldn't just go to a rival gang and be like, I'm going to kill all of you. Like leave right now or I'm going to kill you and your children in front of their mothers. Like that's what they were allegedly doing. And then they built these supermax prisons that we used to be sending people to where they were like humiliating in a very keen understanding of the Hispanic man.
Yeah.
They were just humiliating by way of like forced gay stuff.
In front of
these
Kristi
gangbangers. Yeah. And then Kristi Noem went to go watch, which is a whole new interesting turn of events. But like, but yeah, that very much informs the Trump administration. And I think that there's an element of that is like appealing, certainly to MAGA and also I think to more independence than some people want to admit, which is, you want to know what? Why don't we shoot the drug boats with a missile? And for all the wailing and gnashing of teeth of like, well, we should interdict them and they should go to a federal court where they are owed a lawyer. And then we should make sure that they have their day. And it's like, that makes a whole lot of sense. And, or we just put a missile in their ear.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll smarten them up real quick because when they're going through, can you imagine? Do you ever work in a restaurant?
Oh yeah.
Kevin?
Definitely.
So when you were working in a restaurant and there was those shifts that sucked, like if you're in your 20s, you don't want to open the restaurant on Saturday, right? Because it means you can't party on Friday.
Yeah.
The worst, right? Like that's got to be times a million what is happening for the drug cartels when they're like, hey, Diego, you're on the boat. Like, I'm on the boat? Damn it. Damn it. God, I don't want to be on the boat. They're shooting missiles at the boat. I'm going to die.
Oh, God, you have the best metaphors. Excellent point about the state of exception as a violation of political realities stretching back to ancient Greece and possibly before, but definitely in ancient Greece and through Rome, where a state of exception, an extra legal situation or heavy-handedness as a way to impose law, stepping outside of law and making the exception as a way to purify the law and make it more significant is always a fascinating situation to me. Using abuse to stop abuse, using violence to put an end to violence. And I think it's relevant to everything we've been talking about. I think it's part of the Charlie Kirk situation. I think it's part of a lot of what Trump is doing. And it's just so hairy. Because the end result is, the intentions are at least good, even in there being a violation of the standards that the same people have rallied against and used in order to gain power.
But they are all of our myths, right? Like every year we go see a superhero movie where the reason why we like superheroes is not only because they have cool outfits and they have special powers, but because they go above the law to stop the thing that the law can't stop, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Like that is the vigilante, the superhero. That is who we like because they get results. And
definitely. Yeah. And I think it's realistic as well. I think there's a reason why Charlie Kirk was assassinated and not Fuentes, just like JFK and Martin Luther King and RFK as the figures who stood offered the possibility of cohesion. And if we're realistic about humanity, not humanity in the sense of being, showing compassion, humanity in the sense of us as a species, if we're realistic about who we are, there's a reason why that always happens. And Charlie Kirk being one who was at least potentially cohesive.
All right. As a little end of the year treat to everybody, I'm going to end this episode by reading in Rush Limbaugh's voice what got him in trouble about Sandra Fluke. It goes like this. What does it say about the college co-ed Susan Fluke, who goes before a congressional committee and essentially says that she must be paid to have sex? What does that make her? Well, makes her a slut. Right?
Right.
Makes her a prostitute. She wants to be paid to have sex. She's having so much sex, she can't afford the contraception. She wants you and me, the taxpayers, to pay her to have sex. What does that make us? We're the pimps. The Johns? We would be the Johns. No. We're not the Johns. Yeah, that's right. Pimp's not the right word. Okay, so she's not a slut. She's round-heeled. I take it back. He then went on later in the day to say this. Can you imagine if you're her parents, how proud of Sandra Fluke you would be? Your daughter goes up to a congressional hearing conducted by the Botox-filled Nancy Pelosi and testifies that she's having so much sex she cannot afford her own birth control pills, and she agrees that Obama should provide them, or the Pope.
Brought the Pope into it. Oh, man.
And then one more thing. That was on February 29th. There is obviously a big stir. This was his response to that. So, Miss Fluke and the rest of you feminazis, here's the deal. If we're going to pay for your contraceptives and thus pay for you to have sex, we want something for it. And I'll tell you what it is. We want you to post the videos online so we can all watch.
That's good radio.
You want to know what? And we'll leave it with that.
Well done.
Kevin Ryan, where can people find you?
The Free Drift Substack, Free Drift Kevin online. I just had a piece in D Magazine that I think is one of the best things I've written because it's just storytelling. It's so simple. There really is no politics. It's Standing Among Giants. I think that's the title they went with. I covered the strongman, the official strongman final in Arlington, Texas. So that if that's a fun one to read, it's uplifting. Yeah. And maybe that's the palate cleanser we need for 2025.
My God, I want culture to come back. I just don't need everything to be enough messages. I don't need, unless they're good like Eddington, but it's like, so few things are good. It's just like.
That's the sound of 2025. That's how it feels.
That is. All right, Kevin, thank you so much.
It was a joy. It was a joy.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, brother.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.